Okay, Wendy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to session 3 of Coldwell Banker's Virtual Education Expo. I'm Wendy Crane, Coldwell Banker's Vice President of Learning. We kicked this series off last Thursday, 1 week ago today, with 10 tips for marketing in a virtual world. And we were blown away when almost 5,000 agents from across the nation came together with us to learn. Our second session, which just aired this past Tuesday, covered the 100 Days Effect. On Tuesday, we had nearly 8,000 agents. That's almost 13,000 agents over the course of 1 week. 13,000 agents dedicated to learning, sharing, and spreading kindness in their local communities and around the nation. There really aren't even words to express how much this means to all of us, knowing that you guys are finding value in this series and that you're joining the movement to be a light for those who need it the most. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. You can find the replays for both of the presentations, which include additional resources in the appendix, by visiting the Coldwell Banker Blue Matters blog at blog.coldwellbanker.com and searching Education Expo. My recommendation is to bookmark that page because we will continue to post all of the materials from each session there. As a reminder, not only are these sessions open to both company-owned and affiliate Coldwell Banker agents, we made the decision to open this to the entire real estate community because we know that we are stronger together. And I've said it before, and I'm going to continue to repeat it. As an industry leader, Coldwell Banker is deeply committed to making sure that you have the information, guidance, and skills that you need to carry on our incredible tradition of 114 years being a trusted advisor, guiding our clients through uncharted waters, and landing them safely at home. As always, our producer Des will be taking your questions. You can click on the Q&A icon in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, and we'll stop at the halfway point and towards the end of the session to address as many questions as we can. Questions that do not get addressed will be answered and posted on the blog. Again, that's blog.coldwellbanker.com, along with the session recording and the presentation. However, due to the overwhelming responses that we have received, there may be a slight delay in posting the answers to your questions because we want to make sure we're getting you the information that you are looking for. So, what have our agents been up to since our last session? Well, of course, they've been out spreading kindness. Here are some examples. The Nicole Durant team with Coldwell Banker Realty in Utah reported that due to COVID-19, the title company's doors were locked and no one was allowed to be present other than the signers. However, that did not stop the sellers from showing their appreciation. Upon arrival at the new home, the buyers were greeted with a welcome home sign on the message board. Jean Littman from Coldwell Banker Realty in New York decided that since she couldn't do an open house, she's going to spend her time making masks for our doctors and nurses. Thank you to everyone who is fighting this pandemic for us. You are truly our heroes, and thank you to Jean for making those masks. Marcia Rosenblum with Coldwell Banker Realty in Connecticut, who happens to be a professional stager, decided she would offer free staging consultations to all of the sellers in her Woodbridge office in an effort to make their virtual showings stand out from the competition. And there's more. Sean Guzzo, who is the vice president for Coldwell Banker Realty in Baltimore, rallied her troops by creating a Facebook group that resulted in hundreds of masks for local hospitals. She also created a food pantry, a food delivery chain for the seniors in her area. Thank you so much to Sean and her group. And our last piece of good news spotlights Walter Gibler of the Gibler team. He's from Coldwell Banker West Shell in Cincinnati. In an effort to spread kindness to his clients, along with supporting small businesses, Walter purchased $2,500 in gift cards from one of his local favorite restaurants, Nation's Bar and Kitchen. He paired it with a handwritten note that said, "Let's be honest, it's a challenging time right now for everyone due to coronavirus, especially small businesses. We want to support our local community as they are fighting to stay afloat." I love that. Supporting the local community, contacting his clients, handwritten notes. Now that is some good news. So social media has been a hot topic now for a very long time, and it's never been more important than it is today. There's many guides that exist that discuss techniques, methods, and strategies for connecting with this vast audience, but we thought we would offer something a little bit different. Direct question and answers from two agents who are incredibly successful in this space, while both working different markets and different types of businesses. Who better to help you level up your social media skill set than those who have proven strategies that work? Before we dive in, let's look at some quick statistics provided by Social Sprout. Facebook has a monthly user base of 2.45 billion, and Instagram has a monthly user base of 1 billion. 79% of 18 to 29-year-olds are using Facebook, and 67% are using Instagram. 79% of 30 to 49-year-olds are using Facebook, and 47% are using Instagram. 68% of 50 to 64-year-olds use Facebook, 23% use Instagram, and 46 of 65-year-olds and up are using Facebook, while 8% are using Instagram. These are the age groups who are most active in the housing market, so it makes perfect marketing sense to develop a meaningful presence in the social world to connect with these consumers. Let's meet today's panelists. Today, we will be hearing from Tim Smith, who is the founder and principal of the Tim Smith Group out of Coldwell Banker Realty in Newport, California. Tim leads the #1 team in California and the #2 team in the United States for Coldwell Banker, with career sales exceeding $3 billion. He's infamous for his video content, which has reached audiences exceeding 60 million in a single campaign. With the strategic release and combined efforts of his social media and PR, Tim has been named a top real estate video influencer by both Tom Perry and BombBomb 3 years in a row. We will also be hearing from Katie Day, who is the team leader for Move Me to Texas. In Houston, she was the National Rookie of the Year in 2017. Last year, Katie and her team closed 150 transactions, totaling $36 million. Katie's been published in multiple Houston publications as a rising star, and she was selected to participate in the Texas Realtors Leadership Program, which focused on community issues among other topics. Katie chose to apply that knowledge to a unique social media presence showcasing real estate, local charities, and a fun, interactive community bingo game to help drive traffic to local businesses. We will also be hearing from Jennifer Craig, the National Deployment Manager for the Product Studio, who is currently responsible for delivering all of the products within the Coldwell Banker Product Studio virtually to our agents and employees. The virtual classes that Jennifer teaches routinely host several thousand agents each month. Jennifer's experience in the industry include 8 years as a successful realtor, commercial real estate underwriting and acquisition, and managing digital marketing for a national real estate technology company. We are calling today's session 6 Secrets from Social Media Influencers. Tim, when asked for advice on generating a powerful presence on social media, you emphasized authenticity and emotion as factors that are incredibly important. Tell us more about how you developed your following based on your unique films and the personalities of you and your team. You might be on mute, Tim. Do we have Tim, or did we lose him?
Tim's dialed in. I think his phone might be muted.
I'm here.
Oh, awesome. Tim, can you close your computer? Because we're hearing a little bit of an echo. Awesome. So I'm going to repeat the question. Sorry about that, Tim. We are wondering, when you're asked for generating a powerful presence on social media, you emphasized authenticity and emotion as factors that were really important. How did you develop your following based on your unique films and the personalities of you and your team?
So we started doing films 15 years ago before we had any of the technology that we have, just because we have such a love and passion for films. And some of our homes are so unique and beautiful, we thought they needed to be brought to life through film. But as we progressed and as social media has become such a powerful tool in selling real estate, we've realized the power of the distribution through that. And when I'm asked, like, what are the keys for social media in today's market? And it's really been tried and true A/B testing. I would find with everybody that's listening, number one, be you, because there's enough of everybody else. You know your clients. There's 2 reasons people use us. Number one, because we are the best option to get them the most for their home or to get them the best price in the house. But number 2, the likability factor. and they like you. So our big thing is be you, be authentic. And the more that you do, I would say take risks with vulnerability. People want to know what's really going on. We all have this idea we want it to look a certain way. We're very data driven. Our metrics for social media are views, likes, shares, and saves. So when you're putting something out there, look at the feedback and give people more of what they want.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Katie, a lot of your content is very personal from the perspective that you're speaking directly to your audience, like when you're providing a virtual tour or an open house. How do you know what to say and how do you prepare?
Yeah, so as far as what to say on video, especially with live property tours, I try to highlight the features of a home that you wouldn't necessarily see online or on a website, or features that would be important to me or my clients if they were actually purchasing that home. So depending on the home, I may write a few notes down, but generally we'll just point out the home as if we were touring it with you in person. Outside of live property tours and focusing more on our curated content shot by our videographer, we want to create content that highlights our local community and local businesses. And then as far as stuff that's more on the fly and relevant to today's news, we want to be a source of knowledge for both, our peers and consumers. So in day-to-day business, as we have conversations, more than 2 to 3 times, we'll generally make a video about it, about that conversation, or about those hot topics or newsworthy items that need to be talked about, like market updates, interest rates, and different things within real estate.
Awesome. Jen, you spend a lot of time teaching each week to a virtual audience. How do you keep your presentation engaging even when you're not face-to-face or in a live conversation? Jen, you might be on mute too, because we can't hear you.
You're absolutely right, I was. Happens to the best of us. When the transition from live to virtual, it was a little bit of a stretch for me at first until I realized that I just kind of had to relax and continue to be myself. It's a really fun way to get your message out to the rest of the world. And when you think about it and you relax a little bit, you bring your personality into the conversation, it's just as easy as presenting or having a conversation with a live person. You just kind of have to use your imagination just a little bit. Also, when it comes to developing your unique presence online, also be sure that you keep everything consistent across all of your channels and all of your platforms. You need to make sure that you have the same user ID or the same page name on all of your different platforms. Use the same user handle. And then even if you're using hashtags, it helps to determine your own hashtags and use those consistently as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. So this one's for Katie. Katie, for someone who is early in the process of building their social following, what method or strategies would you recommend for growing their audience?
I think that the most important thing to build your brand and build your following is to be engaging. So if people comment on your post, you should respond and reply with conversational and engaging comments. Not replying as if like someone walks up to you at a happy hour and says hi to you, and then you just turn around and walk away. So you want to engage and follow people that interest you, and you'll get follows back in return, and you'll definitely see better engagement with that organic growth.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. Tim, talk to me about hashtags. How do you use them?
Okay, so hashtags are interesting, but I just want to go back to one of the things Katie says. With hashtags and with social media, and especially now, we literally scrapped our 2020 business plan because there's no way in the current environment what we're facing, we're going to be able to create enough conversations, appointments, contracts, listings to do the business we anticipated. But what we can do today is be relevant. And what we do over the next 90 days for our brand will cement us through this transition, and what's going to be available is market share. Market share, because there's so many people that we challenge. But when it comes to hashtags, the biggest thing for us is what is really trending right now? What is going on? And what I would say to everybody doing, really starting or getting developed or taking the next step is be relevant today. Even though this may not turn into a listing appointment, a conversation today, what you're doing now is going to create the most opportunities when we transition through this, i.e. interviewing the experts for the CARE Act, for the SBA loans, how it's going to impact things but those hashtags are what's trending, which you need to be a part of those because you'll get an audience that may not be within your social network.
Awesome. So you also, Tim, had a video that went viral. We featured that on our first session, How to Duffy, or Teach Me How to Duffy, actually. But when you first shared that content, did you have any idea of the type of impact that it would have on your followers? And did you change anything about your approach after that?
So, I mean, that was a real work in progress. And I would just say kind of rules of creating this. Number one, you got to take risks. Number two, it's never going to work out the way that you think it's going to work out. And number three, it's like my high school English teacher, every first draft sucks. So remember that and take the risk. But when we did this, we created it last minute because we couldn't create what the seller wanted us to. They were out of town. We launched this film that's very, very Newport centric, and that's where I'm at in Newport Beach. And from the time we launched it Thursday, we had the Wall Street Journal have the exclusive. Thursday to Sunday, we had over 50 national and international media sources pick it up. And through all of our different channels of distribution, including all the people that were in the film, we had over 3 million views in the first week.
Wow. That's amazing. Jen, when you're growing a social audience, what are the best practices to keep in mind across platforms?
As I mentioned before, make sure that you keep yourself recognizable from a visual standard. So be sure that you have maybe your same logo that's featured, the same colors, the same font, use your same photo, and then also try and keep the overall look of your platforms very similar to each other. In addition, we have a few tools that can be very helpful when it comes to that, one of which is our CBX buyer locator. So any of our Coldwell Banker agents that are on should have access to that. And that gives you the ability to target your audience based on big data. So it's a great tool if you are doing some digital advertising. Also want to go ahead and highlight on some of the conversations we've already brought up today, which has to do with getting involved with other users, maybe other businesses, even some of your local charities and community. Because when you're able to put out that word and then share some of your audience with them, they'll also share some of their audience with you. So then you have the ability to kind of put the spotlight on each other and then grow together.
Awesome. I think we all would love to take a quick peek at both Tim and Katie's Instagram accounts. So we've got a couple of clips on there. And as you can see here, Tim highlights topics like philanthropy, travel, and family, and super cute dogs, which we love. And Katie also includes travel. She's got personal fitness and her local East End bingo in addition to real estate content. Speaking of content, we've all heard the phrase content is king when looking for guidance on how to create engaging posts. After all, on social platforms, content opens the conversation and provides opportunities to connect with your audience. Both of our social media influencers frequently include content outside of real estate to keep their audience engaged. Let's hear some more about how these experts developed their personal content. I'm going to start with you, Tim. What are the primary factors that you feel are essential when developing your content strategy?
So everything that we do is intentional. And I think the objective of everything we do on social media is to grow a following that likes us, that loves us, that likes to engage, but then also that knows that we are the expert that has the ability to get them the most for their house or get them the best deals. So when we're sitting in our weekly strategies, the one thing that we try to do on everything we create is get people to stop in their tracks. Next, to make content snackable and shareable. And like the metrics that we have, and we're very, very data driven, it's things from views to engagement, to re-engagement, to sharing, and then to reposting. Those are the 5 things that we really look at. It's a myriad of different concepts, and sometimes we're doing things so off the wall, like the Teach Me How to Duffy, just to create a splash, which gets eyeballs to our other content, which directs them to what we do and the listings and the homes that we're selling.
Awesome. Katie, we were super excited to see that you shared our virtual marketing ideas from our first Expo on your Instagram TV. What is your strategy behind including content geared towards an audience of real estate professionals as opposed to the consumer audience?
Yeah, thanks. So our goals for Instagram are kind of twofold. We obviously use it to highlight our real estate business to consumers, but we also use it to engage with realtors in a few different ways. So we're always looking to grow our referral partner database in other cities and states. And then we also use it locally to provide value and engage with agents and brokers here in Houston in our local market. So it made sense to share it, obviously for the ongoing value that it brings to people nationwide and worldwide.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. Jen, when planning social media content, what resources, Coldwell Banker or otherwise, can you recommend?
There are a million great resources out there for those of you that are with or not with Coldwell Banker. When it comes to creating video, especially if you're doing video for real estate, Ripple, spelled RIPL, is a great resource. There's also a website called Canva, CANVA, and Canva is very helpful when it comes to putting together infographics or maybe some other beautiful content. If you're a blogger, it's always very helpful to share your content, share your own personal content. And if you're blogging on your website, that can help bring traffic back to your website. And then speaking of an agent personal website, don't forget to leverage social media to help drive traffic and hopefully create some leads. And you can do that by sharing your listings and sharing your open houses directly from your agent personal websites onto your social media pages. Last but not least, we also have multiple tools out there that are free or very inexpensive that can help you collect content from other places on the web. So if you would like to share content, maybe having to do with other topics outside of real estate, or maybe even some real estate market highlights, I would recommend using either Flipboard or maybe your RSS feed and Outlook in order to follow blogs that are credible and interesting and very easily gather that content for sharing.
Awesome. So we're going to take a quick moment here and revisit our hashtag CD Good News in relation to our guests today. These are some clips from one of Tim's videos, and we could not get enough of this gorgeous home, and we certainly loved all the rescue dogs that were featured. So adorable. And then we've got Katie's. She showcased this charity supporting our local animal rescue and the eco-friendly products that they offer. Thanks to both of you for using your platforms to promote our spreading kindness. Let's move on to timing. Tim, last week in our conversation, you mentioned that you follow a specific distribution list for your digital content that involves sharing on multiple platforms. Can you share that with us?
So I don't know if I can answer that in 1 to 2 minutes, but I can say there's a couple of what we do is, number one, you want to create great collateral, shareable, snackable, things that are going to re-engage, right? There's a ton of people I see that now are creating unbelievable content. Now the challenge becomes distribution, and we call that kind of marketing 2.0. There's a million sites, Vimeo, all of your Instagram sites, all of your social media sites, YouTube. You should sign up for all that. It should all link back to your website so you have the ability to re-engage these people. The one thing that we've learned as we've gotten bigger and as we've gotten the ability to cast such a wide net is digital leads don't call you back. They don't call. So you have to incubate them. We sold a place to Mark Cuban a couple of years ago, and from the time that he engaged, the time that we sold was 7 months with over 39 different points of re-engagement. So the real key is, how do we take it from just posting, getting it out there? And I would say the two things is, one, how do you get editorial or PR? And number two, what are you doing to geographically target the buyer that is going to be aligned with the properties you're selling? So there's a lot of geographic tools that I think that we could talk about more, or maybe have a follow-up, but that would be my answer for that.
Awesome. That's great stuff. So we hear a lot about frequency of posts as well as time of day and how they both factor into interaction and gaining traction on both Facebook and Instagram. Katie, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Definitely. So we try to post earlier in the day, prior to when people are arriving at work or starting to work, as the Facebook and Instagram algorithms both will catch popular posts with engagement and push those posts and those videos higher on news feeds. So when you have a lot of initial engagement, so the views, the comments, and the shares, it'll generally perform better and maybe something then you would want to monetize or boost. At the end of the day, we do monitor all of our analytics on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the different social sites on a week-to-week basis to see, if we should change our content, our copy, the days and times we post, things like that. But the main goal, honestly, is to just do it as consistently as possible.
Awesome. Jen, can you weigh in on any of this?
I can. Just some additional comments having to do with your frequency and also having to do with your interaction. Remember, as Facebook and Instagram grew their user base, before very long, a lot of people got to the point where they weren't seeing everybody's posts within their network on a daily, a weekly, or sometimes even a monthly basis, depending on how many people they were following or how many friends they have. So also keep in mind that whenever you're posting, make sure that you are doing so consistently, because the more your followers interact with you, the more you will continue to organically show up in their feeds.
Awesome. So we have officially reached our halfway point, and I know there's going to be tons of questions. So Des, what are we hearing? What do people want to know from our panelists?
Hi, Wendy. So I have a good question. Should I create a Facebook business page even though I don't feel like I could commit to using it very often?
Ooh. That's for the panelists. I'm not going to answer.
So I would say if you're, you should be looking at things way in the future from this. You need to be on every channel, Facebook business, Instagram, Vimeo, YouTube channel. You should be doing all that stuff. And this gets back to, what do we know right now? There's a lot of things we don't know with what's going on. And I'm really sorry that we're in this situation, but there's a ton of opportunity to help. But today, you need to be on everything and you need to be in front of people. We know inventory's low, and where we live, lower than it's been since 2016. We know that interest rates are the lowest they've been in history once again. And what we know is we have more eyeballs. We've seen over the last 2 weeks, daily, we are getting more and more and more analytics on our views. People are in their homes, they're watching, they love real estate. Take advantage of every channel you can.
Awesome. What's next, Des?
How much time do you recommend investing in building your social media in the beginning?
Ooh, I would love to hear from both of you on that one. Katie, how much time are you investing? And how much did you start with?
So I would say we probably spend a few hours. I probably spend a few hours each day, and there's different things that people on my team will do as well. But I think that if you block out a little bit of time every single day to do small tasks and have kind of a marketing plan or a business plan for it, then it's just checking off the boxes as you go. But I would say, again, just to have a consistent amount of time on a weekly basis to dedicate it to, get yourself out on all those platforms that Tim referred to earlier.
Tim, what were you doing in the beginning? Like, how much time are you spending right now in your team?
This is a kind of a tough question. I don't want to overwhelm people, but we have 2 full-time people that all they do is support me and our agents on social media. So I understand that's not for everybody, but I would think the number one objective for every real estate agent is appointments and contracts. Make no mistake about that. There's no Instagram or social media or any of these digital platforms that are going to take the place of you doing the work. However, if you're doing the work, you're 90 minutes a day of prospecting, this will become like steroids for your business because it's going to get you in front of so many of the people that you're seeing. So I would say it's a minimum of 2 or 3 hours a day, but it shouldn't be the time that you should be out prospecting, having conversations, and in appointments.
Awesome. And we heard Katie say, block your calendar. You guys, this is the time, you got to block your calendar so that you can get things done. Let's take one more question and then we'll dive back into our panelists and we'll do questions again. Don't forget, we'll do questions again at the end.
Where do you find the CBX buyer locator?
Jen, that's for you.
Easy enough. I can help with that. If you log into CB Exchange, it is located in your Springboard front and center.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to dive back into our panelists. In a digital world, people are often observing and planning well in advance of what we call go time, right, for a real estate transaction. So what processes or plans do you recommend for outreach to your followers to incubate leads? Katie, let's start with you.
Great. Yeah. So we try to add in engaging content with a call to action. So whether it's prompting people to schedule a listing consultation, or using polls to ask questions. Are you living in your dream home? Are you looking to move in 2020 or 2021? Do you rent or do you own? Things like that. Then once we see those results, we can direct message or DM to follow up with those people and eventually take the conversation to a phone call, an email, or ideally in person. As Tim said earlier, digital leads don't call you back or don't pick up the phone. One cool feature is both in Instagram and in Facebook, you can actually make phone calls and video calls through the app. So you don't necessarily have to get their phone number, and you can still connect with them, in a more face-to-face or voice basis.
Awesome. So Tim, what do you recommend for incubating leads?
So all of our agents, we're always looking for a big fish on light tackle, right? Big fish, light tackle. And everything that you're doing digitally is impressions that are going out. When we first started really understanding this, we realized that we had, overnight from hundreds to thousands of people on our website, but we were having a really hard time connecting with these people, and we didn't understand really the migration of how they come to us. But those digital leads don't call, and they are very, it's very sensitive. If you don't get back to them right away or re-engage them, they'll go somewhere else. So not only is it about creating great content, distributing it, but you have to have a plan to follow up with these people. If you're not doing it, you have somebody else do it for you. I understand that creates risk. I can't afford to do that, but there's always a way to do that. But those digital leads are so sensitive that you need to engage and re-engage and have a plan to do that. Again, I think this would be some follow-up. We're happy to be very transparent about all the systems that we use, from the CRM to the database, but it starts with great content, distribution, and a follow-up plan, understanding that all these leads, the goal is appointments and contracts.
Awesome. Jen, what would you like to add to that?
Your lead conversion is largely based on a series of communications. So I think one of the best things to keep in mind is having the right expectations from the very beginning. As Tim mentioned, your digital leads are not always going to be instantly responsive. As Katie mentioned, you can leverage how you connected on social media in order to reach out to them directly. So just don't forget about them immediately, or don't put them aside after a week or two if they are being kind of quiet. Remember, these things do take time. So in that circumstance, or along those veins, continue to use the ways that you have to connect with them, whether you are paying extra attention to your posts and maybe even tagging them in the posts when you can, direct messaging them or sending them Facebook Messenger messages, of course, within a discrete type of timing. And then also, once you are able to kind of take it offline and start to develop that personal relationship, making sure that you have a CRM that you are using and you are tracking your leads in order to incubate them is something that's invaluable. A question that I get frequently as a technology instructor is, how do I best use my CRM, or even what is the best CRM? And my thoughts are that it really needs to be simple. So if you have something that has too many bells and whistles, if it's too fancy, if you make your system too complicated, you're less likely to use it, because then it becomes time consuming. So just be sure you get your leads in there, be sure you're monitoring their status. So if it's somebody that you've had communication with, try and gauge when they're going to be ready to transact. Are they a hot lead? Are they warm? And then also be sure that you're making notes of the communications that you're having with them. So if there is a gap in between when you talk to them today and the last time you spoke with them, that last conversation is always going to be fresh in your mind.
Awesome. So this kind of follows along with leads. To effectively follow up on a lead, whether it's for an extended time or a short period of time, it requires organization, which we were just talking about. So what tools do you recommend for follow-up? And this is kind of a two-part. So what tools do you recommend for following up on leads, and what tools do you like for content creation? And Tim, I'm going to start with you on that one.
So as I'm kind of thinking about it, and after hearing Jen, that was a great question, both are great answer, Jen and Katie, is we track leakage, and leakage is people that do transactions that were within our database or within our sphere that we weren't able to get the transaction done with. And that's probably been one of the most successful things, because, going back to as simple as, what Jen was talking about, it doesn't matter what database that you use or CRM, just start using it and have your whole team use it, because this is all about follow-up. And I would say the tool that we use that's probably the best is I have 2 guys that are on dialers. They're basically Mojo dialers that are following up on every lead within my team, not for any other reason than to make sure that these people get called, and that's what digital leads work. But we have a million tools for creating content, distributing, follow-up, but it's just use the tools that you have. Coldwell Banker has so many tools as a company. Like, we are the best, the largest, and we have millions of tools that we use. And what's interesting is a lot of Coldwell Banker agents don't even know we have them. So I would say the first thing is talk to your Coldwell Banker office manager, get plugged into all the systems that we have, get on your database CRM, and remember, it's all about your personal work of follow-up.
Awesome. Thank you. And yes, block your time, talk to your managers, get in some classes. You're stuck at home, learn some new things. Katie, so I'd love for you to answer this too. What tools do you recommend for follow-up, and what tools are you using for content creation?
I'll continue with the same message as far as tools for follow-up. We track pretty much everything in our CRM. Obviously, you have lots of changing priorities. So when you have the conversation, logging it, adding in next steps, because you probably will forget those next steps tomorrow. And then I also really like BombBomb. So we use it for lead response, just for an initial, putting a face to a name, letting them know that there's someone behind the computer, that it is a person. And then we also will embed videos in BombBomb for things that videos we've already shot. So to update clients on the buying or selling process or the next step of their transaction, we can send them videos through BombBomb. As far as tools for content creation, it's super easy to get started with just your phone. I know a lot of people will go out and buy an expensive camera, things like that. The cameras on most phones these days are super high quality and can shoot really well, 1080 or 4K, high quality picture. I'd recommend, if you are going to use your phone, investing in a lav mic, the cheap mic on Amazon that you can clip on, to your clothes. You can get one for like $20. And then lighting is also really important. So a small selfie light is helpful as well. From there, obviously, you can scale up and get, different cameras, external lighting kits, stabilizers, all kinds of different things. And then, hire videographers, hire film crews, things like that. But, just a phone is great to get started.
Awesome. Jen, anything you'd like to add when it comes to tools?
Well, tools are my specialty, so I think I probably can comment on a few. Just to reiterate that CRM is really important, but also making sure that you have certain components in the CRM that are helpful, like maybe a calendar or a task list, so you can make sure that you do have everything on track. The ability to create campaigns is also very helpful. So when you are busy going on those appointments and taking those listings and working with all of your customers, that you're not letting everybody in your pipeline sit and not hearing anything from you. It's always helpful to have direct communication, whether it's email or text or phone, above and beyond keeping that visibility on your social media. For your content creation, also keep in mind that there's a lot of great tools that I've already mentioned, whether it's the blog aggregators or Canva or any of those that are all in your resources. There's a great video that we also have added to the index, which gives you some tips on how to kind of get comfortable in front of the camera and some best practices. And then also the majority of the tools that we have in our Coldwell Banker product suite do offer a social media component. You can share your Prospect Square reports on social media. You have the ability to use BrandServe in order to create custom social covers and things of that nature, and they do match our national ad campaigns. Of course, everything in InTouch and Zap, there's a lot of great social media friendly tools there. And you'll find that even if you're not one of our Coldwell Banker agents, if you take a look at what you have for your personal website, I'm willing to bet most of your content is also social media friendly.
Awesome. All right, with such a great panel of experts and a really hot topic, especially for today's virtual climate, we got a ton of questions waiting. We're going to give a little bit more time to Q&A with this group, but I just want to get some final thoughts from our panelists, and then we'll jump back into Q&A. Tim, what would be your final thoughts for social media for our agents listening today?
So first of all, I'm really sorry that we're all in this situation, and we're taking it very seriously because it is serious. We're living in history. And I think ultimately some of the things that we know, we need to be safer than ever for not just us, for our loved ones and other people that could be more vulnerable. But we've never had a captive audience of people being at home all the time. And I think there is a mix of things that you can do that you'll see if you do A/B testing that is really important to how you're going to transition through this into our next market. I would say everybody's stuck at home. So they're trying to figure out if they really love their home. Some people do, some people don't. I think people need to see your listings. And I don't think you should do it in a way that's disrespectful or unsafe, but we're filming every listing with a virtual walkthrough with a drone so people can actually see the home and then see the neighborhood that it fits within. And I'm walking people through this in our Instagram stories. The other thing I think that's great is how we can give back and what we can do within the walls of our own homes. And I'm like falling in love with my family in a way that I've been too busy to do over the last 10 years. So people want to see that. And we have this stewardship of we're creating this business where we get to find places for people to live where they can create memories. Let's remember that being a realtor is the greatest job in the world right now, in my opinion. And so we have where much is given, much is required. So I think this is really a great opportunity that people should really think about.
Geez, you're making me I'm all emotional over here. That was amazing. Katie, what do you want to add to that?
I don't know if there's anything to add after that. No, I completely agree with everything that Tim's saying. Now is a time, obviously, to take things seriously. And ensure that you stay safe and healthy. But as far as social media goes, it is a time to ensure that you're stepping up your game. If you're not doing it already, just get started, especially now while you have time on your hands and you do have a captive audience. So taking that first step is definitely imperative. And just be consistent and be authentic. Show yourself and be vulnerable. So yeah, get started.
Awesome. Jen, what are your final thoughts?
I love what Tim and Katie both said. I think that there's a lot of people right now that aren't used to being stuck at home. And some people are sheltering in place with a group. Some people are sheltering in place by themselves. And either way, they're all kind of hungering to know what's going on out there in the world. So as a community ambassador, we have the ability to get out and spread some positive energy in a time that's really challenging for a lot of people. And challenging, I'm not entirely sure is even the right word for it. Even if you look at the ability to, just kind of reach out and say hi to everybody. I think people being at home when they're not used to gives you the ability to just kind of be the bright spot in somebody's day. So don't be shy about that. Also, something that I found really interesting is I was looking at Facebook's blog earlier today, and as substantial as the Facebook infrastructure is on a technological level, they have seen the traffic increase so much on the Facebook and Instagram platform since the beginning of the pandemic that they have continued to reinforce their servers and continue to grow their own infrastructure in order to handle it. They've seen messages go up as much as 50%, and in one of the first countries that decided to shelter in place, their live views literally doubled in the first week. So that people are out there and they're looking for connection with other people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, you guys. So I said we were going to get some questions. We've got ample time for questions. I'd love to just dive in. Des, what else are we looking for answers on?
How do you grow your social sphere if you don't start with a big base?
Who wants to take it? Katie, I'm throwing it to you.
Okay, sounds good. As far as growing your social sphere, I think that, obviously you want to connect with people you already know, and connect with, clients and things like that. But outside of that, I would focus on local businesses and people in your community that or that you meet. So, local businesses and doing local business spotlights are great because you get to know people in the community, and, we'll continue to grow your base through that. So I think those would be kind of the first steps, and then from there it'll continue to grow.
Anybody want to add anything to that? let's go to the next question because I think that was a great answer.
Actually, I would like to add a little bit to that.
Okay, you're allowed.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
well, actually, it ties directly into what Katie was saying. I am a huge believer in farming. And when I was an agent, I started my business. I feel really old saying this, but Facebook wasn't a thing at the time. And I was young, I was newly licensed, and I was living in a city that I didn't have a very large sphere of influence in. So farming is something that I really kind of brought close to my heart very, very soon, was very good to me. And I've continued to watch the process evolve. So now we have the ability when it comes to our technology, and we have the ability when it comes to even, Facebook and Instagram, to have these online communities based on geography. So, if you want to farm, get to know everybody in the neighborhood that's the market area that you want to serve. Create online forums for them. One of our guests in one of our earlier sessions did very well for herself by doing that and becoming that community resource. So there's a lot of opportunities just by taking a lot of the strategies used for farming to grow that network.
Great stuff, Jen. What is another question, Des?
What content is important to start social media posting?
Ooh, what content to start? Tim, let's hear from you on this one. What do you think?
Okay, so first of all, anybody that's listening, I love Instagram. It's tsmith007. tsmith007. Right now, I think we've answered this a little bit, like what's going on with people. People are suffering. Some people aren't, but it's like right now people are listening and they're eager to hear, not from the politicians and the news. Turn the news off, turn out all of that stuff off, and get to a space where you can create content so relevant. It's, there's a quote that said, there's decades where very little happens, but there's weeks where decades happen. We are in those weeks where decades are happening, so be relevant, take a risk, go out there, figure out what people want. I'd be interested in connecting with all of you via Instagram or sharing whatever we can share, even if it's just what our content is sharing right now. But now we are really, it's so important to be relevant.
Yeah, and so I just want to add to that. So everybody should be going to blog.coldwellbanker.com to get this presentation and the recording, because we will have in the appendix the links to social media influencers so that you can get on and you can look at Katie and you can look at Tim and you can look at their sites and see what they're doing. Does anybody else want to add anything to this? Because I know we have lots of questions. So let's just go back to Des then and grab another one.
They want to know if there's a specific CRM that Katie and Tim both recommend.
So the CRM we use is Follow Up Boss. It's just been the best for our team, but I'm not saying there's not problems, but Follow Up Boss is what we use.
Katie, what do you use?
We actually use Follow Up Boss as well. We've used a few throughout the years, but same thing as Tim said. There obviously are some idiosyncrasies with it, but all in all, we like Follow Up Boss.
And I think Jen, you didn't say it. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
The one thing I'd add is, like, even in a Follow Up Boss, it's got a team function. We also have something we use called Asana for team projects, where you can actually, it really becomes helpful when you're trying to layer down from the macro, thousands, hundreds of thousands of leads to specific engagement that are to appointments. Once we get them into an appointment size, we use Asana, ASANA, and it's been a tremendous tool, and it really adds on Follow Up Boss well.
Awesome. What I was going to say is what we teach, and I think Jen said it in some last week when we were on the phone, is the best CRM is the one you use. So just get one and use it. If you're not using one, you really need one. Des, give us another question. We got some more time.
Is it possible to create an email campaign in Prospect Square and send it via our CRM, or can it be only sent via InTouch?
Jen?
The campaigns that are in Prospect Square are distributed directly from Prospect Square, and the campaigns that are in InTouch are distributed directly from InTouch.
Easy enough. Des, we probably have time for probably a couple more, actually.
Okay. What is the best way to share company listings when we sold all of ours?
Ooh, that's another one for you, Jen.
Awesome. I think I can handle that. When you have sold all of your listings, one of the blessings of IDX feeds, and the IDX is the technology channel that the MLS uses to push all of your MLS listings out to people that are licensed and have registered for their feed. But your IDX feed will help you guys get all of your office listings onto your website as well. So as long as they are listings that are taken through the same broker, you typically do have the ability to showcase that on your website. Now, as far as sharing a specific listing out on social media, I do highly recommend having a conversation with that listing agent first in order to talk to them and get permission in order to say, hey, I love your listing at 123 Main Street. I'd really like to do some promotion on it. Is that okay with you? I know most of our agents internally, everyone that I've met certainly has been very supportive of each other, but that is just a little bit of a courtesy.
Agree. Awesome. How about another one, Des?
What are things we can or can't post? For example, can we take a picture of a beautiful kitchen in a home we visit with a buyer and post that? I want to make sure that I don't post anything that is inappropriate or illegal.
Ooh, I'm afraid to answer this one. I know that I'm just going to say, I think most of the time you have to get a release, especially if you're using something in someone else's house. And you have to be careful because even if you did pay a photographer for one of your own listings and you're using it in your own listing, let's just say they took, and this happened when I was an agent. You've got the community center, right? You paid that photographer for the community center for that house, and using it again on a different one can get you into trouble. So always, always, always getting permission. And I don't know if Jen, Tim, or Katie, if you have any advice for this one as well on the legal aspect of these. I hate answering legal questions, so.
I'm going to stick with some really general advice on this one, just because this is a legal situation that tends to be a little bit sticky. First and foremost, I think you keyed up on a really important factor. If you are the photographer, that definitely weeds out some of the red tape that Wendy was just referring to. If it is a photograph that was taken by a photographer, be sure you're reading all of the fine print to understand exactly what your rights to that image are. Sometimes when you purchase the photograph, you purchase all of the rights with it. Other times that photographer might retain the rights to that image and could, maybe not have a great conversation with you if you use it in a way that they didn't approve. When it comes to a picture of the inside of somebody else's house, I would also make sure that you have a really clear conversation with your broker in order to get some of those legal answers for what's considered okay in your usual area. Remember, that's private property. So even though the home is up for sale, what's in the home, including the picture of that kitchen, is something that could definitely be called into question if somebody was unhappy with it. Now, I know our listing agreements do cover the ability to take photos of a property and distribute the photos of the property, which is why I say go ahead and refer to your broker, have a conversation, and then also read the documentation that you have, because if it's one of your office listings or one of your personal listings, you may have the rights to it. But that's not a question that I think anybody could really answer without reading through some print.
Good answer.
I want to answer, even though this may get me in trouble. We do this all the time. I generally ask for forgiveness, not permission. And if you're doing things above board to try to create exposure around beautiful homes, very few people are going to care.
Des, do we have a couple more questions? I think we maybe have time for like one or two more.
Okay. What is the best, fastest way to grow your followers on various platforms? I have heard boosting posts to specific demographics.
Ooh, I'd love to hear from both of you on this one, on your thoughts on
Okay,
boosting.
I'll jump in there. So we've never paid for followers. I don't think that you should do it. A lot of people do it. You can tell when people are paying for followers because they're not getting the engagement. We do a lot of A/B testing. That just means you test all different types of campaigns. The campaigns that work, we always post them without promoting them. The ones that get the best response, those are the ones we promote. The ones that don't, we let them go and we move on to the next one. Because ultimately, you just can't promote everything. It doesn't make sense from an ROI standpoint, in our opinion. But again, I think you like not only social media, YouTube and Vimeo, and I think that wave of the future, the next 90 days is going to be TV. Not like Hulu, Netflix, that type of like actual cable TV. Look into that.
Ooh, cable TV. Jen, do we have anything that like features cable TV?
We do. Actually, all of our listing concierge packages in select markets, but it is available in quite a few of our markets, do offer television spots. And so that's a really cool feature that we have, regardless of whatever service level you select.
One more reason to try listing concierge if you haven't. Let's take another question, Des.
When communicating with clients and leads on Facebook, do you recommend using your business page or a personal page?
Ooh, you want to take that one, Katie?
Sure. So we generally use our business page because on your business page, you're able to boost and monetize posts. So if you do have, as Tim said, something that's performing well and you want to put some money behind it so that it gets pushed out to more people, that would need to be from a business page. Obviously, we have friends and friends of friends that will message us on Facebook, but generally speaking, for ads and for prospecting, it'll be done through the business page.
Anybody have anything to add to that one?
Yeah, I can jump in on that. I've always liked the idea of being able to have your business page and have your personal page. So that way, when it comes to your personal page, you can, just kind of relax and hang out with your friends and your family. And then your business page, you may want to convey just a slightly differing life. It's not about anybody going out and being a maniac. It's just simply about being professional, and then also making sure that you retain just some of your privacy as a real estate agent, because it is a job that is a very personal job, but it also can consume a lot of your life. So I think that's really helpful. Also keep in mind that just because you're putting something on your business page doesn't mean that you can't share it to your personal page. So you do have the ability to share content between the two sites very, very easily. When it comes to communications at that point, it certainly is possible that somebody could reach out to you on your personal page or could reach out to you on your business page. If they're looking for you on Facebook or looking for you on Instagram, the search result that will come up first will usually be the one that you use the most. So also keep that in mind.
Awesome. I think we have time for one more question before we wrap it up.
Do you post the same post to Instagram and Facebook, or do you create different content for each platform?
Ooh, good question. Not everybody at once. Tim, I'll call on you and then I'll ask Katie the same thing. Like both of you can answer this question.
I mean, we do a mix, but I mean, generally we're posting the same thing, but there's just a lot of ways that you can, if it works well, post it, do more of it. If it doesn't, let it go. And all I would say, kind of an ending, I know we're ending, is like, people need our leadership right now. They need our vision, and we will get through this. So we need to be the ones that are the lights that are inspiring vision within our communities.
Awesome. Katie, how about you? Are you posting on Facebook and Instagram? Same thing?
Yeah, so for the most part, we will post the same thing. So I think our mindset is pretty similar to Tim and his team of, for the ones that work, we'll put it out across the board. And if it doesn't, we'll move on and get something else going later.
Awesome. Well, we are getting to the end of our session. I want to thank our panelists so much. And I just want to remind everyone that at the end of last week's session, speaking of being the light, we introduced you to a new movement that we're calling Operation Outreach. And we're doing that to spread the kindness throughout the entire month of April. So what we were asking you to do, if you can, is go to either the Coldwell Banker Learning Center or Sales Pro depending on the side of the fence that you are on, and search for Operation Outreach. We would love for you to be reaching out every single day during the month of April to someone in your sphere of influence, either on the phone or virtually. If you go to these sites, you will find that we've got some sphere of influence social media assets that you can use. And I said last week, in order for you to do this, I think you need to get an accountability partner. We're independent contractors. Get an accountability partner. Tell that person, I'm going to call 5 people every day. Make yourselves accountable. We are a network of almost 100,000 agents. And I just really think, like Tim said and Katie said, and we've all been talking about, it's a hard time right now for everyone. We need to be the light. We need to be that North Star, right, guiding our clients home. Let me tell you about the upcoming sessions because we've got some great content coming up. Next week's sessions, next Tuesday, we're going to be hearing from the president and CEO of Guaranteed Rate Affinity, Victor Ghirardelli, and our vice president for Coldwell Banker, Tim Foley. They'll be sharing details on what we're seeing in terms of the disruption in the marketplace, lessons learned from past downturns, and new programs designed to close mortgage transactions with zero human interaction. And that can add value for your clients in this space when they're needing it. And then Thursday, you definitely don't want to miss because we're going to have our president, Ryan Gorman, and he's going to join us with a representative from the National Association of Realtors to discuss how the financial stimulus package affects real estate professionals and your clients. Thanks again to our panelists, Tim, Katie, and Jennifer, to the production team, to the studio, to marketing, to everyone who participated in today's session. As a reminder, you can find the session materials at our blog, blog.coldwellbanker.com. I'm Wendy Crane, encouraging you to stay inspired, to keep spreading kindness, and to never stop learning. Thanks, everybody. See you next session.